We are now going to hear the last presentation of the day, and we're going to hear from Ian McLean and Tim Clark from John Smedley, together with Alistair Gower from Sharing in Growth. We're going to be looking at sustainability from a very different angle. Ian, over to you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Oh, there we go. Brilliant. Thank you very much. My presentation is a little bit more narrow than what we as our company do when it comes to sustainability. Many of the ideas that you've heard talked about earlier today by the great companies that are out there, Johnson's and Elgin and others, like measuring your carbon footprint, making a plan, having a team to develop it, changing from fossil fuels to renewable fuels, all of that kind of stuff is also going on. But I took very clear instructions from Adam to talk about a very specific part of our business. And really, today it's about quality, people, and waste are the three main themes. And to do that, I've assembled 3/4 of the Marx Brothers to present to you. This is me, the Managing Director of John Smedley. My friend Ali Gower from Sharing in Growth is going to speak second. And Tim Clark, our Director for Sustainability and Technical Director, is going to be the whiskey chaser at the end, right before we all rush to the bar. And our project in here is entitled From Craft to Manufacture, and I'm going to explain that as we go along. One of the great aspects of working for John Smedley, one of the quirks, I suppose, for working for a very, very old family company, and next year we will be 240 years old, and I'm the 8th generation family member to run the business for my sins, is that every now and again, one of my colleagues will bring in an old artifact into my office. They may actually wheel in one of my relatives who are the shareholders. But on other occasions, it can be things like this. And I've actually brought it with me. Somebody brought into my office the other day a folder, a paper folder, entitled Directories, etc. And this is a record of all of the textile industry directories that John Smedley subscribed to in the 1970s and 1980s. The old lags in the room will know what a directory is. For the teenagers, it's a large printed book. And here's an example of one of the leaflets inside. You'll notice the very great diversity of the board in 1980. Every white 60-year-old man you can imagine. This particular one caught my eye and reminded me of many of our UKFT board meetings, actually, where the cigar smoke can sometimes hang so low in the room, I have trouble working out where Nigel Lugg is sitting. Another leaflet in this directory folder comes from 1975. Some of us remember 1975. Elvis was still playing Vegas in 1975. And Nigel hadn't played Vegas by that point. That came later. But in 1975, I'm going to ask a question to the audience, and I hope we have some soccer fans in the room. But which team won the First Division Championship in 1975, do you think? Please have a go. It's a very good guess. My first guess was going to be Leeds United as well, because as a boy I remember that Leeds was a very strong team. But the real answer absolutely stunned me. It was Derby County, close to where my business is. They did it for the second time that year. The good news was that Chelsea got relegated that year to the second division. But the sort of slightly bittersweet point about this leaflet is you can see here they advertise 8,000 firms in the UK textile industry, or the British textile industry, and 3,000 products. Those things are written down here. And of course, that was the old days, that was the old industry, and it's a very different game today. And the point I'd like to make is, you know, as a 240-year-old company, and many of your businesses who are manufacturing still in the UK, would wish to survive for a long time into the future. So the question is, how do we do it when this is the past and it's all gone? like many of your businesses as well, we've heard this morning and this afternoon, quality is at the core of the company. And here are two of my colleagues testing the quality of a pair of John Smedley long johns. It's been at the core of the business for a very, very long time, and it certainly is today, and I wish it to be in the future. But again, as many of you will know, in a small to medium-sized company that employs a lot of people, quality can come at a very high price. We pride ourselves on quality, and in order to achieve quality, we do what I would call a lot of craft. And a lot of craft means a lot of mending, a lot of fixing, a lot of reworking, and the creation of a lot of waste in order to ultimately produce a beautiful product. And hence the title of my talk, and I'm going to get help from Ali and Tim to flesh this out a bit more, but the point is, you can carry on doing craft, and there is no doubt that John Smedley makes a beautiful product. Every now and again, I spend an hour or two standing in one of our London shops and watching consumers engage with the John Smedley product, and I can see how much they love it. They love the quality. It looks fantastic on the shelf, and of course, when they take it home, it looks fantastic as well. But it comes at an enormously high price to the business. And I think if we are to survive long into the future, we have to deliver the same kind of product. We have to deliver the same emotion, the same quality, but we have to do it more efficiently. And really, that's called manufacturing. So I want to do the same thing, but I want to produce less waste and do it better and be more sustainable as a business going forward. One of the answers to this question, almost the most simplistic answer, is that you buy new machinery and you solve a lot of your problems. This was my knitting shed a few weeks ago, and this is my knitting shed today. In the last 12 months, I'm joking a bit, but I have my chief engineer here who has achieved a lot of this for us. In the last 12 months, we've spent £2 million removing many of the old machines that were equivalent to these and renewing them to brand new machines that look like this. And almost instantly, as my colleagues who are here will know, that faults have gone down, quality is still very high, and the cost of making the product in certain circumstances has gone down already just by putting new machinery in. But as we also know, the situation is a lot more complex than that. Waste is produced all the way through the process. In the knitting process, okay, there's less of that now because of this new machinery, but even so, in the assembly process, we produce waste, and in the putting on of the trims, we also produce waste too. So waste is everywhere, and it comes in a yarn form and panel form. And so, what kind of problem have I got? I've got over 300 employees, and I met another gentleman in the room here who might identify himself, who makes T-shirts in Leicester. And he said to me that he's been in the business long enough that he can remember the day when his cotton waste for T-shirts, he could sell it for money, for real money. And then people stopped buying it, and he gave it away. And today he actually pays to get rid of his waste into landfill. I've spotted you over there. My story is exactly the same. It wasn't long ago when John Smedley could sell its waste wool into the marketplace, and it was turned into other kinds of products. But today we pay to get rid of it. But the mindset of my colleagues and the mindset of my entire business hasn't yet changed to cope with that. So the problem is really quite complex. I have to get people to understand where the waste is coming from and where it's going, to appreciate the cost of that all the way through the system, to change their mindset to help to reduce that cost, to set goals, and even when we do make a difference, to celebrate that difference and make sure it's permanent, because it's very easy to kind of backslide back into a situation where waste is going to cost me again. So I know that we could have done quite a lot of this ourselves. I employ fantastic managers. They're all very bright and they're all very busy. But I wanted to be able to learn quickly from somebody else who dealt with some similar problems in other places. And my chairman, Brian, who came to me from the motor manufacturing industry. In fact, many years ago, he set up the Toyota factory in Derby and ran it for about 10 years. He's a fantastic manufacturer, loves our business. And he said that I should talk to a business called Sharing in Growth, which is a consultancy, a manufacturing consultancy that has operated in the aerospace industry and other engineering industries for a number of years. I was skeptical. You know how it is with consultants. We've all experienced them, and very often we don't get on with them. My wife would say that I have a very even temperament. I'm angry all the time, and nothing winds me up more than a consultant who's trying to sell me something and just repeats what I've told them. But I decided to give Sharing in Growth a chance. And the reason I did it was because when I researched their work, I discovered that many of the companies that they had done work for in the previous 10 years were of a similar size and shape to our own. So between 10 and 30 million turnover and 150 employees plus. And I met some of those companies at a conference that they gave, and I was incredibly impressed by the learning processes these businesses that were similar to me had gone through to achieve better results. So here we are. We allowed Ali into the door, and he's going to tell us what happened next. Thank you very much.
I'd like to say thanks, Ian. I don't know if I'm going to get tomatoes thrown at me here. I just wanted to take you through a little bit of who we are as an organisation, what we do, and ultimately how we're helping Ian and the John Smedley team in terms of their journey from craft to manufacturer. I just wanted to start with our vision statement. So we talk about growing great businesses. We work with businesses that have got aspiration to grow, that have clearly got a desire to grow themselves and also the communities that they serve. But we only work with businesses within the UK. We're very proud of that. By developing great people is really about enabling the organisations and catalysing change, releasing the potential in the organisations through the people. A lot of the time when we talk about growth, we talk about investment in R&D and technology, we talk about investment in capital, and it's quite easy to see the return on that. But ultimately, none of that works unless you invest in the people and the skill sets to be able to deliver that. And fundamentally, it's for this generation and the next. So a lot of my team really buy into this in terms of we're creating a legacy, particularly from manufacturing and engineering services perspective, for people going forward, for our children to take part in that manufacturing sector and see it as an opportunity. Just a little bit about us. So we're a not-for-profit company. We were established in 2012, and we were originally put together to deliver a programme in the aerospace industry. It was all about the erosion of the UK aerospace supply chain and global competition through cost competitiveness. So we were set up as part of a government initiative, £86 million worth of funding. And really, when you add in the in-kind investment from the companies that we work with, it rolls up at about a £250 million programme. We work with those businesses over a 3 to 4 year intensive period, and we work with the businesses on a day-to-day basis to deliver a fully tailored business transformation programme dependent on the specific challenges of those organisations. We don't just come in and out of the businesses, we stand shoulder to shoulder with those businesses. We say that we won't do it to you, we won't do it for you, but we'll do it alongside you. And it's really about that transition of skills and knowledge into the organisations to create sustainable change and leave a legacy. We started in 2012. By about 2019, 2020, we started to get interest from other sectors outside of aerospace. And from there, we've moved into a number of different industries, including defence, medical, renewable offshore, modular manufacturing in terms of new homes, and more recently, the textile sector in terms of the work we've been doing with Ian. Ultimately, I have a team of about 60 coaches that work across the UK, and we sit in the middle of that hub. So they've got various disciplines and skills and capability. But as a result of our partnership with a number of businesses over the last 12 years, we've developed a holistic program that can ultimately support any business through business transformation. So, our principles and how we operate. Ultimately, at the starting point, it's about understanding the organisation. What's the vision, what's the mission, and what's the strategy for that business? Every business has a different idea about what they want to achieve and how they want to go about achieving it. It's really about us getting to understand that. If it exists, if it doesn't, we'll help that business to define and develop it. Once the vision and the mission and the strategy is set and provides direction for the organisation, it's really then about creating an emotional connection for the people within that organisation. Why am I doing what I'm doing, and why am I buying into that vision? Where's it going to take me? So what's in it for me, what's in it for you, and what's in it for us? On the other side is, okay, I buy into doing that, I can see where it takes me, but what do I need to achieve? So being very clear about what are the goals that we're looking to achieve collectively. And once you've engaged that organisation, they have a passion to deliver what you want to do. They understand what the target is. It's then about developing the process and the skills to help the people and enable them release the potential to deliver that. Just down in the bottom corner on the left-hand side, just gives you a feel for some of the numbers. So in terms of the contractual wins of the companies that we've been working with, stands at around about £7.2 billion at the moment. These are all UK businesses. Return on investment is about 3 to 1, and compound annual growth rates around 15% on average year on year. So, how have we done that with the John Smedley team? How have we worked with them? Ian came to us and said there's a challenge in terms of waste, and particularly in terms of quality performance within the business. Ultimately, he wanted to create a change, and when you mention change, can be a little bit of a tricky, the human instinct is, well, it's change, it's going to push me outside of my comfort zone, what am I going to do? So we spent quite a lot of time with the team working through this in terms of creating the right environment for change and engaging the organisation, getting them ready. The first thing was really to dip check the organisation. We run something called an employee engagement survey. It's really about understanding, is everything in place to allow change to happen? And if it isn't, then how do we go about engaging the organisation to understand what needs to happen to allow that change? By doing that, it's a number of activities, working with the shop floor, working through the different departments in the organisation. One example here is a strengths, weaknesses and opportunities piece we did with the shop floor around incentives and how do we incentivise people to change. We also work with leaders in the organisation through change management workshops to understand how their role is important in terms of facilitating change in the organisation. A little bit earlier, as we saw with Sudbury Silk Mill, is trying to elicit solicit the responses from individuals. Ultimately, is looking to understand where is the value added in the organisation. Those people ultimately know what the problems are and probably know how to fix or know what the issue or what the solutions may be. Again, it's releasing those ideas, but then being seen to actively do something about it, which is why the change management workshop with the leadership team is so important. And then finally starting to put problem-solving experts in across the organisation to allow the capability to solve more complex issues, not just the things that can be done right there, right then. So it's all about creating the bedrock for the engagement. The second thing is then empowering people to take action, and empowering people to take action in the right way and in a controlled way rather than having uncontrolled change. So the first thing was about creating a clarity around what are we looking to achieve. What did Ian and the team want to achieve ultimately as their target, and creating that some kind of scope to bound our activity. Next, it's then understanding the current state. So by mapping the process, visualising what is actually happening, and also driving data decision making by understanding what is the current performance and benchmarking that. Once we start to get an understanding of where the issues lie, we can then drill down to collect real-time data. So for this example, in terms of knitting was our key focus area. Where are the specific issues? Let's not try and eat the elephant all in one go. Let's break it down into small, manageable chunks, again and again, but with a repeatable process through a structured problem-solving methodology. And then monitoring the impact of that problem-solving. So was it having the desired impact that we expected in terms of our quality performance? If so, great. If it wasn't, then what more do we need to do? But monitoring this on a daily basis to really solicit change over a very short-term cycle and start to see results. And once this was embedded, it's then about developing that further. So not just about quality, we start to bring in other aspects in terms of safety, delivery, cost and people elements, but all through a structured methodology that allows people to visualise the problems, talk about them, and also empower them to solve their own issues. A real cultural change for the organisation. And it wouldn't have been possible without the input and the built-in support from the John Smedley team. They've really taken this and run with it, which ultimately means that we can then start to cascade this through the organisation, and rather than us as coaching team from Sharing in Growth, it's actually John Smedley people teaching one another how to do this going forward, which is creating sustainable change. So that was all focused on the quality performance in the organisation. We're seeing success from that. It's now about what is the future for John Smedley, particularly in terms of their continuing their journey on from craft to manufacturer. So some other areas that we're starting to look at now is understanding the inventory. So again, reducing the waste through overproduction. Have we got the right things in the right place? Where are we overproducing? Where does it need to be versus where it is currently? How much are we tying up in excess inventory to be able to do that, and time? Secondly, so moving on, we initially focused in knitting in terms of quality performance. It's now broadening that to look at all aspects of waste. So whether you're looking at transportation, the motion within the area, over-processing, there's obviously still the quality implications. But probably more exciting for us is the journey that we're on about understanding what is the strategic 10-year plan for the organisation. So how do we work forward to make this realise in terms of going from that craft to manufacture? What are all the aspects we need to consider to be able to do this? Where does Ian feel that the team have got more than enough capability to be able to do that? And where fundamentally can we support them further on their journey? We talk about business transformation at Sharing in Growth. What I've just talked through today are a couple of the aspects based on what Ian required from us in terms of the challenge. So really looking at the operational excellence side of the organisation and leadership development, but it's an ongoing journey, it's an ongoing challenge, and there's so many other aspects that we're looking to engage with Ian and the team on to ultimately deliver the ambition for the business. Tim, over to you.
Well, thanks Ian, thanks Ali. What a team to follow. Well, it's new ideas, new thinking, closer engagement. We're proud to hold 2 royal warrants. The royal warrants that we hold are not just a warrant to the company and to Ian, our managing director. They're also part of a greater emphasis on our quality standards and our compliance standards. And thanks to the work that business in the community develop and how they put this programme together, it's enabled us to use this as our quality mark and a benchmark. One mark, one benchmark, one quality. The work that goes into the Royal Warrant covers so much about sustainability, our environmental practice and our social practice. Everything that Ali's gone and spoke about craft to manufacture and our vision and our reality, and growing the great business, developing our people, and sustaining the future. What we have to do is zero waste. Our waste stream was far too great, and the help that SIG have given us has shown particular ways in which we can monitor that waste, reuse, recycle, and close the circularity loop. Our waste must not add to this mounting of waste. We must control what we do. You can see 3 streams there of our process waste. The last thing that we want to happen is to add to this global catastrophe. Last year, you'll remember we had quite an engaging chat with Dr. John Parkinson. And his company in OEO, which stands for It Is Not Over Until It Is Over, is still going strong. And thanks to the support of Camira, we've been working with John over the last 6 to 8 months to develop what we can do with our waste stream. None of us want waste, but the reality is we all create some waste. And the Sharing in Growth team and the team of John Smedley are working hard to reduce that right at the core root. So in slide 1, you can see we've got panels sliding into a machine. Slide 2, you can see something almost that's very barbaric. that's a spiked roller that helps break up the work. And finally, on slide 3, you can see how the fibre has been shredded, ready to add new material to start the next process of creating it into a new yarn. So the coarse shredded fibre is now ready. We've now added virgin raw material. The next stage, as everybody will know in spinning process, is that we go to a carding machine. We open up the fibre, we create parallel fibres, we create a web. Then the carded fibre is ready to spin, to create a brand new yarn that's fully recyclable, fully transportable, and closed looping the circularity chain. So as you can see, the waste panels create a new circular product. Now at John Smedley, we have 2 versions of a circular product. This is part 1. This is where we reshred all of our wool waste and create a new yarn into a new garment. Tara has kindly agreed to give a garment around to the rest of you to have a look at. This is our first trial of a circularity garment. It's been designed by a head of sustainable design, produced on some of the new machinery that we've purchased, which is whole garments, so there are no seams, no synthetic threads, nothing, everything that garment can continue its life. It can be worn or it can be recycled time and time again. Our second version is where we wind all of our cotton. We never put the same colour together after it's been backwound and rewound. We try and offer as much variety on that one cone as we possibly can, so that when it's produced, when it's knitted, we get a bespoke garment in return. So again, that's using our waste stream that would normally have gone either to landfill or to a waste merchant, but now we've found a new way, using new splicing technology, our new knitting technology, and embedding what we have in our raw material. It's absolutely critical that we continue to recycle. And for us, the next stage, and we're just about to go under a new project with John at InOEO, we're just about to add our original raw material back into the product so that we have full traceability. And the traceability is absolutely crucial to our sustainability credential. We pride ourselves that we can go back to every farm that we use in New Zealand, all 28 of them. And the fact that now we can actually recycle fresh material with our recycled material gives additional provenance that we still have that traceability process. In addition to that, it means that we can also calculate our carbon emission and see how much carbon that we've sequestered by following this recycled route. And following that, we no longer add any more dye, any more water, any more chemical. It's all mechanical. Thank you. You can all go for a drink now.
Thank you very much, all of you. I'll open up the floor to questions. I'm just going to start. Firstly, Ian, the new products that you're making, are you going to be able to charge a premium for them because they're recycled?
Well, the ones that you've seen, the one that's going around the room and the ones in the images, I mean, these are literally the very first iterations of this process. Tim can explain, but what we have to do next is to get better at sorting the waste into different colours. So if you could then collect all the blues, all the reds, all the greens, you'd start to make a more commercial product. This one is really kind of testing the proof of the process. But if you can do that, then we think you can have a product which, because we have our own retail outlets, and I'm thinking in particular the website and the outlet, we can experiment with price, and we haven't really done that yet. but we can experiment at different price levels to see at what price we can clear such a product through and recover, much of its manufacturing cost, much of its raw material cost, and not see part of that garment ultimately go to waste, but be sold. But that's still to come in the near future.
Thank you. Questions from the floor? Parik.
Hello. Firstly, thanks for the excellent presentation, right? And Tim, I'm just curious, like when you are doing the mechanical recycling, do you see the fiber length going down? Because that's what the literature says when you do mechanical recycling.
Yes, we definitely see a reduction in fibre length.
So basically, we can easily conclude that more work you do, the process will get even better and better through the learning you get through
exactly,
the system.
and the fact that we're adding New Zealand merino back to it, which is a long length, it's around about 72 millimetres, and the product already starts off at 72 millimetres. The length of the fibre is more than adequate for a woolen spun process, so it gives a really good sound yarn. And in addition to that, the product has also been compliance tested as well, so it's also gone through strength, wash, pill. It's gone through all of its wash tests for wash, perspiration, burst strength.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next question from the floor. Joss.
Very much. Joss Grumbar. Ian, thank you. You talked about growth, and obviously with Ali, you're working with an organisation that refers to growth. Obviously, you want to squeeze out cost waste and material waste, and hopefully do that in a way that gives you a better margin. So that'll give you a shot in the arm in terms of growth. Does that help? But then the other way to get growth, of course, is to grow your volume. Does that help with your narrative in terms of your marketing and your messaging and your communication, so that actually you then get sustained growth through actually growing volume?
The simple answer is yes, but I think what's been fascinating about the process of working with sharing and growth is just how many different things are changing in the organization simultaneously. It's amazing today for me to go to the shop floor and see a team of 5 or 6 of my colleagues coming off the shop floor with an idea of a problem that somebody's identified somewhere in their process, and they go to these CDP boards and they draw up a fishbone diagram, and they start to discuss amongst themselves how to solve the problem. And in many cases they solve it, they document it, and then a week or 2 later we come down and watch what's been done. I mean, that I have never seen before in 20 years in my company. It's absolutely extraordinary to watch the empowerment and the results from that. And I think the point is it's only just starting. And I don't quite know where it's going to go, but from where I'm seeing it, it all looks good to me. And if we can combine that with the other work that we're doing, I have my chief engineer, Steve Large, here with me today. The investments we're making in renewable energy, solar panels, and new technologies in our dye house wash and finishing operation, which will potentially radically reduce our energy costs in the future. These two things combined, the power of people and the processes that they do, and the machinery and the investments you make there, has a kind of multiplying effect. And I think that will... I mean, my marketing director isn't here, but I'm sure she could spend the money if she had it.
You said that all your wool at the moment comes from New Zealand and that it's fully traceable. At what point do you think you'll be able to use more local wool for the whole system to be more sustainable?
Unfortunately, in the UK, the wool isn't available to the fibre length and quality and micron that we currently want. We might be able to buy a little of it, but it is only a small, very, very small proportion. The best merino is always grown either South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. And the reason we've stayed with New Zealand now for the last 27 years is the fact that we've got total traceability. We've got ZQ, it's accredited by external accreditations, and we've now got regenerative indexed farmed product, which is showing really good positive results on CO2 reduction, soil sample improvement, water improvement, and more importantly, air improvement. So, you know, New Zealand and the ties that it has with John Smedley are here, and we intend to follow the same principle with our cotton supply.
So you don't think that at any point British wool will be able to compete and become a more regenerative fibre that you could possibly use? Because you're saying that the micron is coming down when you're using the recycled fibre. There's no way that...
No, the micron stays the same.
The length of the fibre.
The length of the fibre changes. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, sorry. And as Princess Anne said, the UK climate isn't really right for growing the best long staple wool. And it's the same for a lot of things in the UK. We can do a lot of things, and we've got terrific teams, terrific technical teams, but unfortunately, to grow really good wool, you've got to have a good climate, you've got to have good food source, and you've got to have excellent farming techniques. We do use British wool, but it's in a very small percentage of our product.
I have a quick question for Alistair. You don't come from the textile industry. What are your reflections on textile manufacturing in comparison to the rest of the industries that you've dealt with?
We're all bonkers, aren't we, Alex? Let it go.
I mean, it's been interesting just listening to the whole sustainability conversation today. I think it's no different to, I think, a lot of the other industries that we're working with are obviously working cross-sectoral. This whole discussion around, well, what is sustainability? What is the customer looking for, whether that be the end user customer or an OEM above as well. I think there's a lot of learning potentially cross-sectorally as well. In terms of the textile and what we've seen, I don't think fundamentally it's different to what I would see in the aerospace industry when I came from automotive to aero. Yes, the technology is a little bit different, but it's still about the engagement of people ultimately. And if you release the capability of those people, there's no stopping you in terms of what you want to achieve. Yes, there's still investment in terms of capital and being able to generate that capital to be able to do it. So I think the challenges are very similar, but it's all about the people ultimately.
What's your reflection on that, Ian? It's about the people. How do you embed it's all about the people in your business?
I think it's absolutely right. The power of a team. I've led the company for 13 years now, and I've never had the philosophy that the CEO knew everything, understood everything, issued every command. I've never believed that was the case. I have always believed that the power of the team is greater than any individual. And I have always tried to build a team around me that could deliver that. And at any level in the organisation, I believe that's possible. So I totally agree with Ali that the potential is enormous if you can get people to work together, share the same goals, understand the limitations that they have to work to, and understand, as Steve Russell said, unintended consequences of doing this versus that, or the potential of this over that. The thinking way, as demonstrated by Toyota, can have amazing benefits. And I'd like, in a small way, to achieve that in my own organisation. And I think it's quite possible.
Anybody else got a question from the floor? Yes, Julian.
Julian Ellis from the Framework Knitters Museum at Ruddington, Nottingham. It is well known that Smedleys never throw anything much away, even if you do have waste, because when you left your archives open to the University of Nottingham, they discovered that in more than 200 years you had not thrown anything away, and you have the most extensive archives of any knitting company anywhere in the country added together. You have more than everybody else added together. And congratulations on keeping everything.
Thank you very much, and I'm just so grateful that we have a 750,000 square foot site in which to store it all. Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble.
Any other questions? In which case, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.